Democratic presidential candidates are continuing to slam the president for the tensions with Iran. Today, former Vice President Joe Biden gave a speech on Iran in New York City. He said that President Trump does not have the authority to go to war with Iran, and he criticized the president for escalating tensions. Let's listen to some of what he said.
The haphazard decision-making process that led up to it, the failure to consult with our allies or Congress, and the reckless disregard for the consequences that would surely follow was, in my view, dangerously incompetent. What we've heard so far from this president are tweets, threats, and tantrums. All we've heard from this administration are shifting explanations, evasive answers, repeated assertions of an imminent threat without the necessary evidence to support that conclusion.
I want to bring in Caitlin Huey-Burns and Natasha Korecki. Caitlin is a CBSN political reporter, and Natasha is a national correspondent for Politico. Welcome to both of you. Caitlin, I want to start with you. What did you make of the messaging in Joe Biden's remarks?
Well, Joe Biden today was very much trying to establish himself as the leader in terms of foreign policy. He's been really leaning into that credential over the past few days to show that he is someone that has been campaigning as someone that can do this job at day one, has been very familiar with these issues, particularly in the Middle East, not only after serving in the Obama administration, but also serving as the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate when he was there for a few decades. So this is Joe Biden trying to really seize this moment and kind of show voters, as we're just a couple of weeks, really a few weeks from voters weighing in Iowa, that he is the leader on this issue. Now, this comes after he's been attacked pretty critically by Bernie Sanders, who has a very different foreign policy vision than that of Joe Biden, and comes as other of these candidates are trying to position themselves as this moves into kind of a new phase in the campaign, and that's really one of commander-in-chief.
Well, Natasha, you have reporting on Joe Biden in a piece called How Biden Stopped His Iowa Tailspin. You write that the former VP has managed to turn his fortunes around in the key state. What did you find?
Well, essentially, over the last 6 months or so, we've seen this huge trajectory with Joe Biden. He was losing ground steadily for months. Elizabeth Warren leapfrogged him, then Pete Buttigieg. Bernie Sanders, of course, has had a stable base of support in Iowa. But what we're seeing now is that Biden has been able to steady the ship there. And not only that, it might be peaking at exactly the right time, with less than 30 days before the caucuses. He just landed a major endorsement from Abby Finkenauer, who is a very popular Democrat, one of the first congressperson in Iowa to endorse at all. And she was in a competitive district. And it just goes back to Biden's closing argument, which is, it's part and parcel of what he did today, which is say, I'm the command, I can be a commander in chief. But it's also a big part of his argument is unifying the country, that he is the person who can win in those kind of battleground districts. And he was also significantly aided in righting the ship by a super PAC that dumped a lot of money into ads, and his own fundraising in his campaign also increased, and that added to his ability to advertise across the state.
Right. Timing really is everything. I want to turn to another candidate. CBS News has confirmed that Michael Bloomberg has bought a 60-second Super Bowl ad for roughly $10 million. Caitlin, what's Bloomberg's campaign saying?
Right. Well, this is part of an effort that Bloomberg has been making to make this an election between himself and Donald Trump. Remember, he's not really running the same campaign as these others in the field. He's not campaigning in Iowa and New Hampshire. Instead, he's waging a national campaign. We've seen him run lots and lots of ads. Really, anytime you turn on the TV, really anywhere you are, you're going to see a Michael Bloomberg ad. By doing this for the Super Bowl, remember, this is just one day before the Iowa caucus, maybe to remind folks that he is a contender, even if he's not not really competing there, but he really would be the only one who can go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump on air at that moment, because it's so incredibly expensive to run a campaign ad during the Super Bowl. And that's when lots of different kinds of people are going to be paying attention, not just those who have been watching these candidates in Iowa, New Hampshire, and some other early states, but the more national audience that Bloomberg has been trying to appeal to. He's been spending time in California, parts of the Midwest, and Florida. And so we'll see if this pays off. Certainly he has the money to do it.
Well, Natasha, the Trump campaign has also purchased a Super Bowl ad for $10 million. That's more than some candidates have raised in a quarter. And Bloomberg is self-financing his campaign. Are either Bloomberg or Trump opening themselves up for criticism here?
Well, they may be, but I don't know how much it'll matter. Bloomberg has received some criticism from those in the field who say he's thumbing his nose at the process. He's skipping these two traditionally first very important states, the Iowa caucuses in New Hampshire and beyond. Those in the field say it will mean little to winning over the diverse electorate that he needs, the African-American vote, for instance. And some Democrats are saying that this actually can help them because Michael Bloomberg is using his money to attack Trump and go to toe-to-toe with him. And it will help them, whoever the Democratic nominee, in the long run. That remains to be seen, but it's definitely two different Democratic campaigns going on right now, Bloomberg and the rest of the field.
Right. Well, Caitlin, you are in New York City for a campaign event that Senator Elizabeth Warren is holding with Julian Castro. What can we expect from tonight's rally?
Yeah, we're here at the beautiful King's Theater. It's kind of nice when the campaign trail goes through our home city, so not too far away from you at the Broadcast Center. But this is an effort by Elizabeth Warren to highlight this endorsement from Julian Castro, of course, who was the only Latino candidate in this race, dropped out last week, quickly endorsed Warren. They share a lot of similar policy views and are part of this progressive wing of the party. This also comes as we've seen Warren dip a little bit in the polls. In Iowa and New Hampshire, she's been losing support to Bernie Sanders. So this is a way for her to kind of keep up or to try to gain some momentum just a few weeks before Iowa. And what this also does, it's reminiscent of or reflects a little bit of a strategy shift. Over the past several days, you may have seen Elizabeth Warren a lot on your TV doing interviews. She did a lot of Sunday show interviews, which she hasn't done throughout this campaign so far. She was on The View today here in New York City, also doing some late night television, comedian television. So this is something that is part of her strategy to get out there and to improve some of those numbers.
And Caitlin, how significant is it that Castro is campaigning at this event with Warren? Talk to us about their relationship and if we could potentially see Castro as a vice president.
Sure, stirring a lot of speculation, and Elizabeth Warren said she's not ready to go there just yet. That would be presumptuous, but it does show kind of where Julian Castro, who is considered a rising star in this party, where he wants to hitch his wagon at this point if he wants to have ambitions later down the road. He sees himself in line with more of the progressive members of the party. They do share a lot of they share a lot of policy interests. They were two of the candidates who released the most policy papers of the other candidates, especially on issues like immigration and housing and some others. They also have just a really close relationship. They have been friends. We've seen that on the campaign trail. Could this help Elizabeth Warren? Well, we're coming up to a crucial time where she might not be able to be on the campaign trail as much if she's called back to the Senate for impeachment proceedings. That means endorsements like this one could be critical for candidates like this, because you can dispatch them to Iowa, which Julian Castro will be doing, and other key states. Also, the Latino vote will be so critical to a lot of these candidates, especially in those Super Tuesday states. So that could help her gain an edge there. Notably, though, Joe Biden today released a list of endorsements of former Castro supporters. So definitely competing for that lane as well.
It certainly sounds that way. All right, Caitlin Huey-Burns and Natasha Korecki, thank you both very much.